Yeah, we got Georgia coming up this week, but the schedule reveal is too good to pass up.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA Radio Network's Luke Robinson, that's me. Alabama internet legend Jimmy Stein, that's him. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. We'll talk about FanDuel in just a little bit. Want to thank you every day for being here every day. Thank you, newbies, for being here today, and thanks everybody for making us first listen every single day. You guys are the best. So, Jimmy, I know Georgia's this weekend. We're going to talk some Georgia. Got some statistical comparisons to make in just a little bit. But we got to start with this new schedule reveal. You know me. This is my Rugiette. This is I love a schedule, and I just think this is awesome to look ahead. Now, the dates won't be out until December, but we do know that Bama next year starts with East Carolina, and then they have South Florida, and then they have Florida State all at home. Just as you and I predicted, we will have 5 SEC road games to start because we have a home game with Florida State. So it works out well in terms of alternating as a train is coming by our office just as I'm getting into this. But I do want to talk about 2026 just for a second. You and I both talked about it off air that interesting we avoid Oklahoma and Texas in the first season of this new 9-game format. But the home games are Auburn, Georgia, South Kakalaki, and Texas A&M. The road games are at Mississippi State, at Tennessee, at Kentucky, at LSU, and at Vandy. On paper, it's a task, okay? On paper, it's a task. But let me throw this in there, that Auburn hadn't beaten Alabama at home since 2010, and even then, Alabama had a huge lead and just blew it. Before that, it was 06. So it's been, outside of the comeback, it's been 20 years. At Mississippi State is just a 9-iron away from Tuscaloosa, so that's pretty good. At Tennessee, yeah, we've lost the last 2, but they've been super close, and we've had historically pretty good luck there. Georgia at home, that's just going to be tough. Georgia's good. South Carolina at home, we don't really lose to South Carolina at home. Texas A&M at home, they'll be tough, but it's doable. At Kentucky, that's about the best you could hope for because I would argue Kentucky may be the worst team in the league right now. At LSU, we all know LSU's tough as for anybody else in the world, that game will be difficult. For us, we have really good luck in Baton Rouge. We do pretty well there. And then at Vandy, I know they're tough, but there'll be no Diego Pavia, and so that automatically makes it easier. Look, it's tough because Georgia, LSU, Texas A&M, Auburn all on the schedule, and Florida State. But this is about the best you could ask for.
This is why I feel like it went about as well as possible for Alabama. Like, I really think that the schedule release and the schedule thing, I like Alabama's position with the caveat of this. No one has it easy. No one has it easy. We can argue forever about who's got it tougher than someone else. Okay, that's fun and that's fair. But no one's got it easy. This league is fun. What's your off? Who are you dying to play in the SEC at all? Who are you dying to play? Maybe Mississippi State, the team that just beat the defending Big 12 champs. Is it Vanderbilt? Are you kidding me? I'd rather play half the league than play Vanderbilt right now. Just shows how cyclical things can be. But no one's got it easy. But this is why I like how Alabama ended up here, guys. This is why. Okay, so the way that the format works is you play 3 teams, the same 3 every year. The other 6 are, think of them in batches. There's the even year batch, that's 2026, 6 teams. Then there's the odd year batch, the 2027, those 6 teams. I think the odd year batch is tougher. I think those 6 teams are tougher than the even year batch. But why it worked out really well for Alabama is it's the odd years where you have the 5 home games. So the years where you play your slightly tougher batch of opponents is the same year you have your 5 SEC home games instead of just 4. So in that sense, I think Alabama fans should be really happy the way it turned out for Alabama. Is the schedule tough? Oh, heck yes, it's tough. Even year, odd year. The SEC is just the best conference. It's not just the best conference, Luke. It's the best conference in the history of the sport. There's never been a 16-team league that looks like this. It's the best, toughest conference ever. And now we have a schedule where you play everybody in just a 2-year stretch. So, yeah, it's hard. But I like how Alabama ended up here. And I think we're fortunate, all things considered.
Yeah, I do too. The catch, like you said, for 2027, what makes 2027 pretty uniquely arduous? That's the year we travel to Ohio State. So,
Thanks.
I mean,
Now,
name me a team. And again,
now.
Danny Cannell was already like just crying. I mean, crying this morning, like Paul Feinbaum's already threatening that if they don't give the SEC benefit of the doubt, blah, 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 blah. Let me tell you something, Danny. Who in college football is going to play a schedule that's going to include at Ohio State, at Auburn, Florida at home, Tennessee at home, Texas at home, at Ole Miss, and at Oklahoma? Nobody.
Is Danny Cannell trying to take the position that your strength of schedule just doesn't matter?
Well, that's what he said. He was like, in the end, wins got to count. If that's the case, then I would highly recommend the SEC change its stance on scheduling another Power 4 opponent and say you schedule, a bunch of 3A schools. So if it doesn't matter, it is stupid. It's going to hurt the sport.
So dumb about who you play doesn't matter. I mean, North Dakota State wins all their games. Why aren't they in the playoff? Well,
yeah,
they won 12 games. Oh no, they play FCS teams. No, it's Division I football.
Yeah,
I'm just saying who you play matters. Who Liberty plays matters. Of course it does. It's just it's insane to me. I can do a whole rant for 30-minute rant on this. Why did we have to make the committee fully factor in strength of schedule? You had to make the committee do that in the offseason. The NCAA, the powers that be, the CFP people had to go to the committee this offseason and say, you are going to make strength of schedule a major factor. Why wasn't it already?
It should have been.
It should have been the top of the list back in 2014. Instead, they've just been counting wins like a bunch of kindergartners counting apples and oranges. It's insane to me that this no, now you're going to start taking into account strength of schedule. It's nuts. And it makes me wonder if they're not going to do it.
No, they're going to do it. I look, maybe it's blind, stupid faith, but they're going to do it. I'm super excited about next year. I mean, if you're an Alabama fan and you have season tickets, next year you get Florida State. You get a good South Florida team. Now, Golish may not be there anymore because somebody's going to hire him. I mean, I just totally believe that. And it'll probably be somebody Alabama plays. You got Georgia at home. You got A&M at home. I mean, that's ridiculously fun. Now, I'm going to throw this in there because, I live in Ellick City, and so we do some Auburn talk. Auburn next year, they get Baylor at home. I mean, I do a show on Tuesday nights with an Auburn cohort, and we were talking about the schedules. 2027 for Auburn stood out to me. Or excuse me, let me see if this 2027. 2026 is interesting for Auburn, I should say, because their home games are Vandy, Arkansas, Florida, and LSU. And it's like, that's not exactly a fantastic ticket deal. Now, LSU and Florida are pretty cool, but Vandy and Arkansas take the sting off of that. And you're at Ole Miss, at Mississippi State. It's got A&M on the SEC thing, and that's wrong. At Tennessee and at Bama and at Georgia. That's very difficult. And then 2028, listen to their home slate. If you're an Auburn season ticket holder, I'd be irate. You better get you somebody good in the Power 4 to come to your place, because your home slate in 2028 is Vandy at home, Mississippi State at home, Ole Miss at home, and Tennessee at home. Yikes.
For four, when you have 4 home games and 2 of them are against. See, the way an ideal schedule sets up is if your winnable game, the easiest, and I'm using that term, I'm doing the air quotes for people listening on
relative,
Spotify, whatever. Yeah, the easy games. If your easiest games are on the road, that's when your schedule is favorable, right? Because winning on the road is hard. You don't want to play Georgia on the road. You want to play Mississippi State on the road. You know, that's why if you got Mississippi State at home, what good is that doing you? You know, that's the team you want to play on the road, right? I mean, so that takes into account. But again, I want everybody to realize how cyclical this stuff is. I mean, I just said you want to play Mississippi State on the road. In 2014, Mississippi State was ranked the #1 team in the country. They were the first team ever to be the #1 team in the college football playoff poll.
That is what a trivia answer. I mean, I bet you. Look, I'll always know it because I'm a stupid freakazoid about that. But and you'll always know it. But how many people? In fact, do you remember the 3 SEC teams that were in it in the first one?
Ole Miss was one of them too,
and Auburn.
Wow. And
I was ticked. I remember because I did a show with another Auburn cohort of mine, and I was ticked. I was like, I felt like Alabama should have been it, even though they had lost to Ole Miss barely, and Auburn had been blown out by Mississippi State. And but the reason was, I think Auburn got the benefit of the doubt because they had been to the national championship game the year before. So, all right, well, that's enough for the schedule. We need to talk about what could be a big time injury for Alabama. All right, let's talk a little Mazda now, because Mazda's awesome. And in fact, one of my kids has a Mazda. I forgot about that. Mazda crafts cars for I have a lot of kids. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Plus Picks awards than anyone else. And that's as of August 2025, yo. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings this same intention to how we craft every model. You can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to the available Napa leather upholstery. Like Bama players, Mazda sweats every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, you want to move and be moved. Then there's Monarch Money. Ooh, Monarch Money, so awesome. A lot of M's, a lot of Mazda, a lot of Monarch Money, move and be moved. Yeah, because it's marvelous. Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. I love Monarch Money. It has really gotten me situated, and I appreciate it. And I got a lot to keep up with. Not a lot of money, but I got a lot of bills to keep up with, and Monarch has helped me. Don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com. And don't forget, use that code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. Jimmy Stein, guaranteed. So rumors started coming out yesterday about an ambulance at the facility. And then rumors started coming out about Jamari Latham.
I read those rumors all the time, and it's just some of the rumors just get. I read one that said, "You dummies, there's an ambulance out at practice every day." No, there's not.
No, there's not.
No, there's not. I was with the beat writing crew. I was there a lot of the time. It's not all the time.
So Jamari Latham, neck injury. Don't know the severity. I mean, apparently he's got all kind of movement. He seems to be okay. I mean, the idea of his playing this weekend is certainly out, I would assume.
You would have to assume that. And frankly, Jah-Marian got hurt against Florida State. He hadn't played, I don't think, the last couple of weeks because he got banged up down there in Tallahassee. And here's two things. Number one, what a scary injury. I hate it for the players. Every player on the team, say nothing of Jah-Marian and his parents and his people. When something of that significance happens on the practice field, it had to look exactly like it looks in the games when someone goes down with a neck injury. and they have to be stabilized, and then the ambulance is coming onto the field, and then and they're worried about paralysis, and it's just so scary for every kid on the field. And but thank God, prayers were answered, and Jamari Latham appears to have full range of motion, and he's fine from that point of view. So that's the most important thing. Now let's move on to a much lesser important thing, and that's, where does Alabama go from here at the Wolf position? Because Jamarian's obviously going to be out. Well, Quay Russaw and Jan Zapier have been the main guys holding it down, and that's an area of strength for Alabama, is the Wolf position. That's deep, it's good. It's not ideal, though. And this is why it's not ideal. Here's the negativity with it. Quay Russaw, the Wolf has to do three things, right, at Alabama. The Wolf has to do three things. He has to rush the passer, he has to set the edge, and he has to drop in coverage. A weird stat out there. This is crazy per PFF, and I'm sure it's right. Quay Russaw's dropped into coverage just as much as he's rushed the passer. That's a little shocking, but a deeper dive tells you why. First of all, when it's been a 3rd and 10 type situation, Alabama actually puts Jan Zapier in the game. That's why Jan Zapier is almost exclusively rushing the passer. That's what he's doing when he's at the Wolf. So you have a situation at Wolf where you have two good players, and they both need to play a lot, but they have different strengths. Russell's really good at setting the edge, and he's pretty good at dropping into coverage. He's not ideal, but he's pretty good at that.
He had an interception last year.
He did. 2, I think.
Did he have 2?
I think he had 2. Jan Zay is a downhill pass rusher. It's what he does best. Struggles a little bit the other stuff. What would be ideal is if we somehow, with all our fancy equipment in the football building, if we could put, almost like they made Captain America, if they could put Quay Russaw and Jan Zapier into a tube and sort of meld them into one dude, we'd have one heck of a football player then, because every box is checked. But the fact of the matter is, Quay's got to get a little better at rushing the passer. Jan Zay's got to do a little bit better at playing in space if they want to be complete football players. So we're having to kind of sub them in and sub them out based on situation. But that all said, I do think Quay Russaw has improved as a pass rusher. And one of the things I would like to see Saturday is Quay playing more snaps, more pass rushing snaps, because I think the more he does it in a game, the better he's going to get at it. Your game day reps grow you more than your practice field reps. And Quay's not going to get much better at rushing the passer until he's out there doing it. And to me, it's just really important, because getting heat on Gunnar Stockton is the path to winning this football game.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And look, what better opportunity for somebody like Jan Zapier to make his mark on the college football world than to do it against Georgia. And somebody needs to step up. It is just time for what we're going to need to get. I know we got some sacks against Wisconsin. That's Wisconsin. Now, I'll say this. Georgia's offensive line is not the vintage Georgia offensive line. So we should have some opportunity to get some sacks, especially the way Georgia does pass the ball. They're not like necessarily ton of slant type folks. So I think we have an opportunity to get some sacks. I want to talk about Georgia and Alabama statistically here in a second, but I got 2 things that I want to say. First of all, I know this has become cliche for some folks, and I hate that, because I mean it genuinely. Thoughts and prayers to everybody associated with Rudy Johnson and his family. It sounds like it may have been a self-inflicted thing where he has passed away. I don't know, maybe CT involved, maybe not. I didn't know this, but he never had children, never married. He apparently, after football, had a foundation and did a bunch of good things. So I know he played for Auburn, but he was a good running back. I mean, he had like 1,400 yards.
He was at Auburn. He was a heck of a football player.
He was SEC Player of the Year. And look, I'm not here to, I never say a lot of positive things about Auburn, but this is beyond football. And Rudy Johnson was a heck of a player. Seemed like a pretty good dude too. I mean, he had a nice little NFL career, and you always hate to hear something like that. He's younger than I am. I mean, it's just sad to think about, because when I think about Rudy Johnson, I don't think he's younger than me, but he was. Then that's a sad story. I'm going to tell you kind of a funny story really quickly. This is not Alabama or anything related, so if you want to skip forward, feel free if you don't like my stories. But I thought this was funny. So my mom, before, for those who don't know, my mom has been through some cancer treatments, and she's done with all of it. She's doing pretty well now, as well as can be expected, and moving around doing all that. But just before her second diagnosis of all this, she had just gotten into texting her little girlfriends group, and everybody else was texting all the time, and she was getting text. She didn't know how to respond. She didn't know how to use emojis or GIFs or anything. So my daughter, her granddaughter, taught her some things like, okay, this is how you pull up an emoji. This is how you use it. So mom was so excited. She was so excited that she could communicate with her girlfriends. And what she did, it's just awful. So she sent a message to her group of girlfriends, about 6 girls. They're all about her age. They all grew up together. And she loves to tell them, hey, I'm coming to Birmingham, to see a bunch of you or whatever. Well, she was saying she just loves, they just do everyday stuff. She said, hey, guys, I'm going to Birmingham. And she meant to be like, I'm going to Birmingham to go to a farmer's market or vegetable shopping or whatever. What she said was, guys, exclamation point, I'm coming to Birmingham. Eggplant, 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 peach. And for those who don't know what those emojis mean,
I speak enough emoji to get
everybody was like, Lubba, you're gonna have a heck of a time in Birmingham.
Yeah.
So I just thought it was a funny story to share. So
oof.
Sorry, it just makes me laugh.
Makes me happy that my parents are actually famously they reject all forms of technology. So my mom, passed last year. She owned a smartphone, and we texted her once, and she never responded back, and she used her smartphone, to call 911 if she ever needed it. I'm like,
yeah,
boy.
My mom would prefer a jitterbug with only 6 numbers on it. And she also, by the way, her first Wi-Fi password ever at her house was 26 times. Nobody would ever crack that code. Anywho,
26 times though.
Just 26 times.
26 times. Okay.
So FanDuel, the NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your first bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Look, I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet, player props, building a same game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. FanDuel's so much fun. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Jimmy Stein guarantee.
Oh, I'm not guaranteeing you football bets. Don't listen. I say don't even listen to me. Although I think I'm better than I used to be at picking games. I'm better than I used to be. Maybe I need to invest more in FanDuel. I'm better than I was.
Well, the other thing that my mom did was when she first got a computer about 10 years ago, literally about 10 years ago, she's like, Luke, we can finally communicate electronically. I was like, that's great. I'll send you an email. She goes, no, you have to send me a Gmail. And I said, well, email is Gmail. She goes, no, Luke, listen, I've got a G in front of my mail. It's Gmail. You can't. And I said, Mom, Gmail is email. It's just, Luke, you're not listening. G's and E's sound alike, but it took about 30 minutes. But anyway, Alabama versus Georgia statistics.
Stats. The stats. Okay.
So a couple of things. First of all, I think it's important to note the similarities in the two schedules. I would argue Alabama's schedule has been tougher. And in fact, I would think statistically that would bear out. Yeah. At Florida State. Now, we got hammered at Florida State, but we've played in a pretty raucous environment. I was there. It wasn't the craziest environment I've ever been in, but once Florida State got going, it got tougher.
I think at Florida State and at Tennessee are
roughly the same.
Roughly similar. If you want to give a slight nod to Tennessee, fine.
I would also give a slight nod right now to Florida State being the better team. Slight nod.
I'm not sure.
Inconclusive.
I want to see Florida State play Miami, and then I'll be able to be emphatic. I think Florida State's going to prove against Miami that they're really good. I think so. But I'm not ready to proclaim that from the top from a top Mount Sinai.
Fair enough. So I think they've played roughly the same type of schedule, essentially. And so Alabama's been in an environment that's going to be tough.
Yep.
And Alabama historically has played well in Athens, especially lately. But a few stats to point out. First of all, scoring. Alabama 18th in the country, Georgia at 30. I mean, that's essentially a wash at 42 to 39. Rushing offense, big difference. I mean, no shock. Yeah. Georgia is 30th in the country, which is not great, but Alabama is 103.
Oof. That's my answer to that. Oof. And something that's got to be addressed. But I'll tell you, after you go over these stats, Alabama's got to run the ball better. I don't know that they got to run the ball better this weekend. This weekend, win the game by any means possible. I don't care if Ty throws it 58 times. Win the game by any means possible, and let's worry about the run game some other day.
Yeah.
Win the game by any means possible. Those that say you got to run the ball or you can't win, I disagree. I used to feel that way about most things, but I disagree. I think you do what you do best, and that's not what Alabama does best.
Jimmy, it's a lot like playing blackjack, right? Long term, it's always best to hit a 16 looking at a 10. But in a one-off, if you've seen a bunch of small cards come out in a row, statistically, it probably means a big card's coming. So maybe you stand because you don't want to bust. You know, again, and that's what I'm saying. Long term, Alabama's got to get better running the ball. Long term, there's no doubt. To get in the playoffs, to make a run. For this game, I am with you. We need to do what we need to do. And it just is coincidence that Georgia's weakness is their secondary on defense. So that's where our strength is strength on weakness. And we have to exploit that. But passing offense, now Bama's 9, Georgia's 48. It doesn't exactly make up for it because Georgia's 24, Alabama 31 in total offense. However, it's close enough. It's 470 to 460.
That's really close. Sounds to me like Alabama has been slightly better on offense in terms of when you take into account Alabama's played 2 Power 4 football teams. Georgia's only played 1, right? I mean, they've just played Tennessee and Austin Peay and Marshall. Who did they play in the Auburn?
Marshall's not that good this year. They played Austin Peay and they played Tennessee, and that's it.
So Alabama's, Wisconsin is at least a Power 4 football team. I know they're not great, but Alabama's played the tougher thing. As far as Georgia's secondary being a weakness, I agree that that's where Alabama's going to score some points and make some hay is through the air. But I wouldn't necessarily say it's Georgia's secondary. So much of it is the combination of they don't get a lot of heat on the quarterback. And I think that's why the DBs get picked on a little bit, because there's not been much of a pass rush there for Georgia. Alabama doesn't have any more sacks than Georgia does, but Alabama is good at applying pressure to the quarterback. Alabama's pressure rate is very good, very, very good. Alabama gets a lot of wins up front. They did the same thing last year. Really high amount of pressures on the quarterback, not as many sacks. Georgia's not a lot of sacks, not a lot of pressure. So I do think, though, Alabama throws it best. Georgia doesn't defend the pass as well as they defend the run. It just lines up for Ty throwing the ball around the ball field a lot, and Alabama wins or loses the game based on can they protect Ty or not.
So the other thing would be, if I'm going to say Alabama's strength is going against Georgia's weakness, I think it works the other way around. Not quite as much, but Alabama's rush defense is 71st. And Georgia's is 18th. The thing about it is, I don't care that Georgia's rush defense is so good because I don't think that's going to be our thing anyway. But passing defense, Alabama's 3rd in the country. Now, we played a Florida State team that runs a gimmicky kind of Gus Malzahn, run it more. Then we played a not so good ULM, and then we played a not so good Wisconsin. So, I mean, maybe that's why. But Georgia is 81st. Now, a lot of that 81st is made up for by Tennessee and Joey Aguilar going off on them. But I would say this, call me crazy. I think Ty Simpson is equal to Joey Aguilar. I think Alabama's receivers at least equal, if not better than Tennessee's. Now, some people may think I'm nuts here because Mike Matthews is really good. Brazel's very good. But I'm not trading Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard for anybody.
We each played one game that skewed the stats. We played Florida State and the stats got skewed, and they played Tennessee and the stats got skewed. But here's one thing. Georgia is not similar to Florida State. They might be better. They're probably a better football team, but they don't play like Florida State does. Alabama does play more similarly to Tennessee than Georgia does to Florida State. So I think Alabama has a better chance to replicate Tennessee's success than Georgia does in replicating Florida State's success. That said, a final thing I'll say, because I think we're going to do a prediction show tomorrow. I'm going to be very comfortable with the outcome if both teams are in the 40s. I think a track meet, like sort of what happened in Knoxville, is sort of Alabama's best chance here. I mean, I like, if both teams score in the 40s, I think Alabama wins. If both teams are in the mid and low 20s, I think it's going to go with the Bulldogs.
I want to say something that sounds so obvious it's almost stupid. I want to get ahead of Georgia and then make them play from behind.
Yeah.
I don't want us having to play from behind because I don't want Georgia, and I don't want Georgia just, methodically moving down the field like the Lions did the Ravens. I've already talked about that, but
there's no proof we can come back. Not
correct.
Under DeBoer. It's never happened. Under DeBoer, once we get down, we've stayed down.
Well, Georgia, I mean, we gave up a lead.
We gave up a big lead, and we came back, but it was one play on offense. One play. Literally one play.
Yeah, that's true.
It wasn't a methodical drop. What if that ball's incomplete? I mean, does Alabama?
Because it wasn't a great pass.
Well, I think he, per what Ryan and Jalen said, I think it was a back shoulder thing, but it wasn't a great throw. It was a great play by Ryan.
How many other receivers make that play?
Not in the way that Ryan played, almost none, which is why.
I mean, make the catch. I'm just talking about, forget the rest of it.
And stay in bounds, have the body control, because that's where Ryan's, a Viking. He's better at that than anything else. That's why all the criticism about Ryan to me is just like ridiculous. It's like criticizing Beethoven because he's not a good rapper. And maybe he was.
God, I wish Beethoven had been a rapper.
How do we know he
awesome wasn't? Rapper name? Why didn't somebody pick that up yet?
How do we know he wasn't? Maybe I spoke too soon.
You could be Beethoven. Anyway. Anyway, all right. That's going to do it for today's podcast. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.